Hey, welcome back once again, Knicks fans. Today, I'm here with Dre, and we're going to talk about the Knicks Game 4 win, and also we're going to look forward to see what could happen. Hopefully, if they win tomorrow, what the rest, basically what the rest of the competition in the Eastern Conference is looking like. Also, wanted to go over, wanted to look at the PIE stats that we calculated before to see how it's holding up. If it's shown that is a decent predictor of who's going to win the ball game, or if it's or if it's just not a very good predictor right now at all. But we'll get into all that. But right now, I'm here with Dre. Dre, want to say hello to the folks and tell us a little bit about what you thought about the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hello, party people. Uh, Real excited. It was really good today to be a Nick fan.
Yeah,
The excitement is just spreading throughout to the United States, overseas. I mean, it's excitement right now.
yeah.
The Knicks haven't been in a driver's seat like this in a very, very long time. And it's just really super excited to be a Nick fan today. And we're going to bask in that glory today.
Yeah, it definitely is. They're honestly, we're really lucky that we did match up against Cleveland because a lot of the stats kind of, especially over the course of the season, a lot of the performance stats kind of like, was showing that basically we were going to have the upper hand against Cleveland. But even aside from the statistics, when you kind of look at the team, we seem to match up really well. And we basically, I think we beat them season series like 3-1. And there was somebody gave an interesting stat like a couple of days ago. I think it was the next day after the win. It was on one of those TV shows where they were saying Cleveland is 23-1 when a game is under when the score is under 100 points, but the one loss that they have is against the Knicks, and so it's the thing is the Knicks, both teams play a similar style. They're not very high. There's the pace. Both of them play a pretty slow pace, especially with their starting lineup. However, when you get to the second unit for the Knicks gives us a little more pace, and so I think that's kind of one of the gives us a little bit of an edge, especially when we win the turnover battles. So it does help with that a little bit, and so that was an interesting stat to see. And I mean, some of the notable performances for the game, people that really had a big impact on the game. First of all, is first person you always have to go to is Jalen Brunson. He had 29 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. I mean, he had a monster game. It wasn't even really just about having an all-around good floor game and also managing the offense, but also when we really needed baskets, he was really able to show up, especially in the fourth quarter. He really showed up and helped put this game away. The other person, obviously, that showed up was R.J. Barrett. I did not think R.J. Barrett was going to have a good series because of just those two bigs that are sitting there in the lane. I really thought he was going to struggle with it. However, you got to give it to Tibbs. They kind of got creative and kind of found ways to kind of get him running at the basket, and he's able to seal off. He's been able to seal off these bigs with his body and kind of get a good angle on shots going to the basket. It's been really a big revelation, big surprise with RJ Barrett. I really thought he was going to struggle mightily, especially finishing at the basket this series. First few couple of games he did, but the last couple of games he's really picked it up and he's really saved the Knicks. One person who's always been here is Jalen, but RJ basically being really consistent, being efficient the last 2 games has been a real huge help for us. And of course, the other person who really stepped up big time, gave us a lot of energy, some big offensive rebounds, especially down the stretch, was Josh Hart. He basically had 2 steals, 7 rebounds. 12 of those rebounds were offensive rebounds, and he also poured in 19 points. So these 3 guys have been basically huge contributors to the Knicks being able to have a 3-1 series lead against the Cavs. And it's pretty crazy that they're doing all this with Julius Randle struggling. And I kind of have faith that Julius is they're gonna figure it out. And I think maybe it's gonna be next series when he's able to figure it out because it's that kid, he's a hell of a defender. And I think right now he's just like Julius is in his head again, in his own head again. Honestly, I think the kid is a great defender, but it's just one of those things with Julius. Once he starts playing bad and he kind of like gets down a little bit, then he kind of gets in his own head. He had a terrible game um, in terms of actual basically output, not necessarily in terms of points, but if you look at, he only had 2 rebounds, 1 assist during the game, and he got sat in the fourth quarter. And Nobi basically played out most of the fourth quarter minutes, and it really made sense. And the great thing that was about that too, just kind of going from these players to Tibbs, I was really shocked when Tibbs did that. I never, I've always thought Tibbs has never held Randall accountable. I never thought he would ever hold Randall accountable because he's never done it to this point. I was actually really shocked when he actually benched Randall in the fourth quarter, but hopefully Randall can basically find a way to turn it around and and have much better
Yeah,
series. And then the last person I just wanted to actually last two people I wanted to shout out real quick because obviously Isaiah Hartenstein has been a monster in the paint defending the rim. He played really well. And then honestly, Obi Toppin, down the stretch, he got some really big rebounds for us, especially offensive rebounds. And also he had some really good defensive rebounds too in that fourth quarter. And so he did a good job. He had 5 points and 8 rebounds, and 8 rebounds in only 20 minutes. So that's actually really good. That's very impressive, especially given who we were playing against with those two
right,
bigs down there. And so,
right,
so those are basically, we got a basically big all around performance from most of the team. And so it was really good to see that. And the Knicks are a really deep team. And so, you want to talk about it a little more? What were some of the notable performances that you basically saw? What did you think about the whole game overall?
Oh yeah, I echo everything that you say. Starting with RJ, the impact of RJ. I was expecting RJ to have a breakout game at some point this series, and I felt like in order for the Knicks, he's the third wheel, right? RJ is that third wheel who can create his own shot. He can actually play make when he wants to. It's more or less, is RJ going to have tunnel vision or not? When he takes off, is he only going to look at the basket because there are people open? So he has the ability to be a playmaker, and I think sometimes um, he can shoot himself out of games and take himself out of games and just not show up. So it was great to see him play. Jalen Brunson, he's just a true floor general. Um, a lot of pros regarding him. Obviously, Jalen Brunson is a shoot first point guard. I would like to see for him just moving forward, be able to settle the team down. Like sometimes the pace is going so fast. And this
Mm-hmm.
is what I'm afraid of what's going to happen in Cleveland. When that pace is kicked up to another notch, can he settle? Can he settle a team where the team is just not, all spazzing out. They're all over the place, causing turnovers. Can he slow it down and get people involved? Because again, when you get players on offense involved, they tend to play much better on defense. If you ever notice the guy who just scored, usually one of the first ones to try to run down and he's ready to play defense.
Yeah.
Get you guys involved, right?
Yeah.
So, but he's definitely been clutch. We so badly needed Jalen Brunson. Absolutely, probably one of the best free agent pickups of the New York Knicks ever. You know, he's got to be top five as a free agent pickup. And so, oh God, Josh Hart. I mean, how fitting. He is the heart and soul of this Knicks team.
Yeah.
He plays with reckless abandon. I mean, he's that gritty guy. Who'll dive on the court. He'll do whatever it takes to win the game. He's not flashy. He's uphill. He's uphill, downhill. He does, and he'll hit the open jump shot sometimes. I mean, he's God. I mean, just his energy is infectious. And we need that. A great pickup, another great pickup by the Knicks.
Yeah.
Definitely a Tibbs guy. Hartenstein. What are you going to say about Hartenstein? I mean, he has done a complete, 360. from how he was playing early in the year. Um, he plays within his game, right? He
Yes.
doesn't go outside of what he knows his range and what he can do, and he plays that as hard as he can. Another blue collar guy. I love it. Um, and then my guy. I'm hard on him. I'm hard on him,
Mhm.
but because I expect more out of him. But Obi showed up. He showed up in that fourth quarter. He was more aggressive. Again, you see that he's still trying not to make any mistakes, but he was playing hard. I saw something that I hadn't saw all year out of Obi, which was how much effort he gave. He gave. I felt like he truly gave a damn about this game. I felt like he said, "You know what? It's time for me to step up. It's not time for me to do my old, cherry picking and my leak outs and all
Mhm.
those things. I need to get rebounds. I need to be involved, and playing defense to the best of his ability. I felt like it was true effort by Obi. So definitely kudos to him. Um, and then and Randall, I feel like with Randall, I feel he's hurt because there's no way Randall is only getting 2 rebounds. He's hurt. He's
Yeah.
obviously paying. He's obviously playing through some pain.
Okay.
Um, and I'm just like you. I'm shocked that Tibbs benched him because usually Tibbs doesn't really care,
Yeah.
And I feel like if Randall wasn't hurt, I don't think Tibbs would have benched him. And I think if Randall was just having a bad game, no way he would have gone with Obi. That's just not Tibbs, man. But I feel like Randall has. I mean, since this injury, he hasn't played up to his ability. And you can see he's kind of declining each game. So, which tells me he's not 100% healthy. He's nowhere near 100% healthy. I'm hoping that the Knicks can close out Cleveland tomorrow so that he can rest and get ready for Miami or Milwaukee. I don't count Milwaukee out yet. I know everyone else is, but if the Greek Freak comes, Greek Freak is going to have a Jimmy Butler type game the
Is the
next game.
Greek?
So
Did he play last game or?
yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He did play. Um, he didn't look 100%. He looked a little rusty, but he
Mhm.
still had, I think, 11 or 12 assists that game.
Yeah.
So he was still, really, really active, but his shot wasn't falling. And that was probably one of the best games I've seen in a long time, that Milwaukee and Miami game. But we'll get back to that. But just finishing up with Randall. Randall, yeah, like I said, I think he's just hurt. I think Randall is an ox, right? I mean, this guy is a bull, and he'll play through pain. He'll play, but is it to the detriment of the team? And that's the question that we have to ask, you know.
Yeah.
And so and that's where Tibbs, as the coach, has to step in and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we need to rest you a little bit. And I think that's why you saw that in the first 2 games of the series. He brought Obi in the first quarter. God knows the last time Obi saw early minutes in the first quarter. But I
Yeah.
think that was a way of giving Randall some rest. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, so I feel like I think if Randall was healthy, he and we can see the old Randall because I don't think he's forcing things right now. Like I
Yes.
don't think he's forcing the situation. I think he's trying to let the game come to him because he's hurt. If it's normal Randall, you better believe he is a bull in a china shop and is going for his. And so, right now, like I said, I think he's hurt. I just think he's hurt, and hopefully these few days. I haven't heard. I'm not sure. Have you heard anything as far as practice? Has anybody been limited in practice? I haven't heard anything.
No, I didn't
Uh,
hear anything. I didn't look that up, so I'm not even sure. I didn't hear anything about
okay.
who practiced today, who was limited. I agree with you. Actually, that's a very good point. Even during the post game conference, Thibodeau seemed to hint that he was probably still in some pain and that he just needed rest. And so and that's so that's interesting. I think that's a very good point. A lot of people have kind of looked over. I have to say I did look it over as well. I didn't even think the injury. I thought maybe in terms of the injury having an impact, I thought maybe it was just like just the whole rhythm thing, right? But so I think you're right, especially given the lack of rebounds. You're right about that. I'm kind of surprised he only had two as well. So I think there's a good chance it is injury. And if it's not injury, then I think it's just kind of like he's kind of a little down on himself, especially with, um, you know, kind of not having a great offensive game, and maybe that's kind of gotten to him a little bit. So it was one or the other, but I think I agree with you. It's more likely an injury is the issue. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's but the one thing that we've seen with this team, I mean, like the New York Knicks, this is a very deep team, and
Yes.
I
Yes.
think,
Mhm.
if they can get Randall back healthy and playing well again, and they're playing defense, they're going to be a tough out. They really won this game mostly because if you look at it, they really won this game because of turnovers. They won the turnover battle and also the rebounding battle. And so that's pretty much the reason why the Knicks were able to pull this game out. Because if you look, they had more attempts at the basket. Uh,
Okay.
we only had 77. The Knicks had 84. We made 38 shots, and Cleveland only made 36 shots. We also made more free throws than Cleveland did. But this is one thing that's a risk, that's a problem for the Knicks. They got to figure this out because this is going to kill them in the next series if they don't figure this out. You know, Another team that's not going to turn over the ball as much. Actually, Cleveland doesn't even turn over the ball that much either. But another team that's going to be more aggressive and maybe get to the line as much as the Knicks do. We're going to lose ball games if other teams basically get to the line as much as we do, and we're shooting 60%. Other teams are going to shoot probably over 75%. So they really got to get this together. I'm not sure why they're so bad at free throws, especially in the playoffs.
RJ. It's RJ.
Yeah, it's been atrocious. And you're right. You look at RJ, 13
It's
free throws.
RJ.
Attempted, he only made eight. Julius was on one of three. Even Mitch was better than Mitch was two of three. So yeah,
Right.
it's
It's,
RJ
it
and
was it was RJ. Yeah. I
RJ.
mean, if RJ could have hit at least two more of those shots,
Hmm.
I mean that percentage jumps. You know, but yeah, RJ historically has been a bad free throw shooter, and so I mean, God, I didn't even look at those numbers. I'm glad you posted it. Geez, I mean that's just alarming.
Yeah,
Um,
18
yeah,
and 28. So yeah, that's not good at all. And so, they're able to pull this game out. And so, hopefully they win tomorrow night. And big hope, because if they do, they'll be able to basically rest up and hopefully, I'm not sure how much time they'll get off because I know Miami is up 3-1 on the Bucks. The thing that the reason why kind of jumping over to that series, I don't know if the Bucks make it only because Miami tends to have their number for some reason, right? And you wouldn't think they would, but I don't know why Miami has their number. Miami matches up better against them, or not. Yeah, they match up better, and I haven't seen the games enough this year to kind of figure out why that is. I know Giannis is pretty hurt, so obviously that's the biggest reason right now that Giannis is hurt. So but if Miami wins that series and closes it out, I'm not sure when the next game is. Maybe it's tomorrow or Thursday. If they close it out, I'm kind of curious to see, do they still get like if they close it out at 5 and we close it out at 5, do we still get like a lot more time? Do we get like let's say almost a week off? Until I'm
well,
wondering if
it's the
the
same amount of time. So what
okay,
happened? Like the series, it's already set for whatever day it is. So let's just say the
okay,
series is set for not this Thursday, but the following Thursday.
yeah,
So it doesn't matter, like if if you win your series early and the other team wins their series early. Both teams will just be able to rest.
okay,
So yeah, it's already set because that way, as far as it's the revenue, right? It's and plus there's especially when we're still in those early first rounds,
hmm,
where there's a lot of games, just three games a night going on. So um, yeah, yeah. So they're already set.
yeah. So, the crazy thing is, so here's basically the playoff bracket here for the NBA. And the top is the Eastern Conference, the bottom is the Western Conference. Just kind of want to go over basically the rest of the Eastern Conference and also the league, see how they're doing compared to basically the stats we have here. And of course, number one up at the top was Milwaukee. They were their first seed, and they were, according to the stats, they were the best team in the league. And it was by a pretty decent margin. But of course, the problem is, they're the best team when Giannis is healthy, but Giannis isn't healthy. And so this is where a lot of time these stats can be wrong because you still got to play the games and you still got to play health. You got to be, your team has to be healthy. And so a lot of times injuries, there's a lot of factors that control that uh, that will control what ends up happening when a series actually, when the games are actually played. And in this case, like I said, without Giannis or with Giannis injured, the Bucks obviously they come right back down to earth, and it doesn't seem like they're a great team. And if you look at the Heat, is up on them 3-1. Look at the Heat here where they were ranked according to the stats here. They were ranked 25th out of 30. They were just, offensively, they were atrocious. And that's the reason why they struggled all season. They only won 47% of their games. And so, I mean, would this be the worst team in terms of win percentage that ever beat a first seed? I wonder if that's going to be the first time a team this bad in terms of win percentage actually beat a first seed. The other thing
Well,
too is like with a lot of these stats, with this just real quick, I cut this off. I stopped collecting stats like almost 2 weeks before the season was over because I didn't want the stats to get skewed by garbage games. Like, you know how basically the last week and a half or so, like you saw how the Knicks, they were just playing the young guys. And so those are meaningless statistics. And so basically these are essentially maybe I think like maybe 64 to 66 games, uh, maybe around 64 games. That's pretty much what all these are. But yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if this is the first time a team this bad has beat a first seed. What do you think about that?
well, I think the last time this happened, I think Miami was the eighth seed
Hmm.
again. I believe it happened in 2012,
Okay.
um, where there was an eighth seed who beat a first seed. And
Okay.
I know the Knicks did it in '99. And that's when they went to the championship, and that was the lockout year.
Yeah.
Uh,
But were we
so,
above 500? I think we're above 500 though, right?
you know what? I don't know. I believe we were, but I'm not 100% sure.
Hmm.
I can't say I'm 100% sure, but I do know. Um, and what seed was the Lakers this year? Were they the seventh or the eighth?
I think they're
They,
7 seed.
okay, they were a seven.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're
Um,
we're we're gonna get into that too because that was that's a very interesting one too. Very interesting series. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So I'm not. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure where the Knicks were that season, that 1999 season.
Hmm.
Um, but I do know that that year the Knicks actually went to the finals, which was insane. But actually, yeah, the Knicks, because it was a shortened year, because it
Hmm.
was a lockout. The Knicks were actually 27-23, so they
Okay.
were over 500. Um, and then I guess in 2012, I think it was Miami. I believe it was the Miami Heat, but I'm not 100% sure. But it may be this Miami team right here may be the worst team to beat the first seed. Yeah, and that just shows you don't know.
Yeah.
There is no guarantees that you're going to win. Even as a first seed, no one, if you would have bet the odds, I would have had to say that Milwaukee would have definitely, beat Miami. But
Yeah.
now, hey, but I don't think Milwaukee's going away. I don't see Miami being able to close them out in Milwaukee. Not this next game, no way.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I hear you. I mean, like probably not. I think you're probably right. They're a very good team, and if Giannis comes back healthy, definitely drastically improves their odds of winning that game, and just kind of take it from there and see what happens from there.
well,
Um,
Milwaukee should have won that game. Actually, Milwaukee should have won that game. They were leading, I would say, with like 3, 4 minutes left in the game by at least 8 points.
well, and Miami
And
just came back and
it
snatched
was
it
just a
back.
meltdown. Yeah. I mean, they went back and forth, back and forth. And
Hmm.
it just was, a lot of turnovers on Milwaukee. Um, Jimmy Butler was just insane. I mean, he just played outside. It was an amazing
Out of body
performance by
experience
him.
for him. Yeah,
Yeah, it was an amazing performance, man. If you get a chance to be able to watch that last 3 or 4 minutes, it was insane. It was truly insane. Kind of like the Lakers game. It was just, I mean, it just went down to the wire.
yeah.
Um, but I would say Miami probably pulled away within the last 45 seconds,
Hmm.
45, yeah, before they kind of got a comfortable lead, and then by that time it was just pretty much over.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that game out. I think that's gonna be really interesting. Obviously, the next bracket is Cleveland, New York. We already talked about that. Philly versus Brooklyn. I mean, Philly dispatched Brooklyn in 4 games, and obviously once they traded KD away, the team was sort of like kind of limped across the finish line. They put up a good effort, in these playoffs, but they just not enough talent versus Philly. So they got swept by Philly. But looking at Philly, where they're ranked in terms of the PIE, Philly is ranked number 5, and this is basically again, this is after All Star break. And then the one correction I do want to make: the Heat actually was above 500. It's just statistically, they're just atrocious on the offensive end. That's why these PIE stat was so low for the Miami Heat. But they were above 500. I think they were like 44 and 38. Um,
Okay.
yeah. And so basically, they're Philly's number 5. They're ahead of the Knicks, and the Knicks are right below Philly. So we're basically pretty even statistically. It's almost a statistical tie. We won more games basically after the All Star break. I mean, we had a better winning percentage after the All Star break, especially during the span of games that I collected these stats for. And so I think it's going to be a pretty even matchup if we had to meet them like in a conference finals. And then also, I feel like the Knicks do match up pretty well against them. Obviously, and beating the middle is going to be a big problem. But I think Mitchell Robinson, the combination of Mitchell Robinson and and Hartenstein is going to be just enough to maybe slow him down just a little bit. And the other person we have to worry about is uh, is James Harden. And not with the combination with RJ Barrett, especially the way he's been playing defense in the playoffs. I mean, he's been pretty solid. And also we have Josh Hart. I think we might be able to match up pretty well versus the Sixers. I think I like my chances versus the Sixers. I really do. Um, and then the other team is Boston versus the other bracket is Boston versus Atlanta. Boston, it looks like they're going to come away with this. Atlanta's only won 1 game so far, but I think a few of the games where Boston has been winning these games going away. And so, in Boston, they're ranked number 3 in the whole league after the All Star break. Um, and so they're 3.93. The Knicks match up really well against Boston. And so if we had to meet Boston, although statistically they are better than the Knicks are, it's just one of those things. I just don't know why they just match up versus Boston pretty well. Just I guess it's kind of the same thing where Heat versus the Bucks. For some reason, the Bucks, the Heat just match up really well versus the Bucks. And if you remember, didn't the Heat basically eliminate them in the bubble? And that was I remember that back then. That was a shocker, you know.
Yeah.
And I wondered how the Heat was doing it. It felt like their defense was all smoke and mirrors. Because if you look at a lot of their defenders individually, I didn't think they were great defenders, but they played great team defense. And so, uh, but so yeah, but you look at basically, so that's why I think it's possible it's just one of those things that Knicks may have a shot, is going to have a shot versus Boston. And we did win the season series, so we do match up pretty well against them. I think it's going to be a tough one, but I think, the Knicks also have a pretty good chance against them. Um, Look at the Western Conference Finals. The Western Conference, I don't want to go through the whole Western Conference. I'm just going to talk about the teams that I picked uh, to win the West, and you can let me know what you think in terms of like both conferences, the East and then the West. In the West, I basically um, I put some wagers, and I'll show you. I'll show you later too. I picked the Lakers to beat the Grizzlies, and and I picked them as a possible team to basically win the Western Conference. The other team that I picked to possibly win the Western Conference is the Denver Nuggets, and so LA Lakers, Nuggets. Um, who else did I pick from the West? Um, Sacramento Kings. That's the other team I picked to win the West. And so those are the three teams that I picked, and they're still in it. The only one that I'm a little surprised by, I really did think that I thought the Kings were basically gonna almost sweep the Warriors, but the Warriors, it seems like sleeping giant has woken up, and so they've been able to tie the series 2-2, and
Oh,
we'll see what Sacramento how they fare in the next game to see if they're able to close it out. But I had Sacramento essentially be possibly being one of the teams to win the West. Um, so what do you think? Who do you think is going to win the East? Or you could give me basically three teams you think have a good chance of winning the East, and same thing with the West. What do you think?
okay. From the East, I worry about Boston,
Mhm.
Philadelphia, and if Miami beats Milwaukee, let's throw those New York Knicks in that conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So those are my three. Now, if Milwaukee figures out a way to beat Miami, the Knicks are in trouble.
Yeah,
But I think the Knicks can push them to a 6-7 game series. But I just don't think they would have enough firepower to be able to beat them. Now, if the Greek Freak is still hurt and he's still hobbling around, then
hmm
I think they can take advantage of him.
yeah,
And then in the West, uh, I got to look at Phoenix.
hmm
I'm looking at Phoenix. I'm looking at Denver.
okay,
And I feel like I would have to put the Lakers because I feel like the Lakers can beat Golden State. I feel like the Lakers can beat Sacramento. Um, and the Lakers will beat Memphis.
okay.
So that's my sleeper team in the West is the Lakers, and the Knicks is my sleeper team in the East.
Those are some pretty good picks. That's not bad at all. So yeah, and the other thing I want to look at was basically, this is where doing all this exercise gets a little fun because now you kind of, you get to put some money on it and to see how it all fares. And so these bets, I think I placed these bets. I think it was like early last week, maybe. And so with this one, the first one, obviously, the first couple is basically me picking the Heat to beat the Bucks. And the odds on these are pretty good. I don't usually, obviously, I don't promote gambling. If you have an issue with gambling, you should definitely seek some help. But me, I don't usually play with a lot of money. So,
Okay.
I'm not like one of those guys. I'm not, in a club, making it rain or throwing money in the air and stuff like that. So, um,
Right.
so yeah. But that said, so I picked the Heat to beat the Bucks, and I kind of made placed two wagers on it. The reason why I do that is like with the way the odds are with a lot of these games, It almost encourages you to kind of place multiple bets, or like look for possible multiple outcomes because the odds are so high on some of these that if you lose one and win the other, you kind of make back the money you lost on the other. So this here is like odds is 1,000, and it's basically so is $2 stake could pay out $22. Same thing here, $2 stake here can pay out $20, and so if any one of these come true, um, it's I win, about $20 on one of them, right? And the next one was I picked the Kings to beat the Warriors, the series winning. This one it wasn't going to pay out that much. I put out $5 to for a $10 payout. Um, and if you see right now, it kind of tells you also how the bet is doing based on like the amount of money that they allow you to cash out here. And so with this, I put $2, and this is worth $5. And this one, I put $5, and it's worth 3.20. I mean $3.30. So obviously, a lot more people now think the Warriors are going to basically come through and beat the Kings, which is definitely possible. And then with this one here, uh, this is me trying to predict a series, what the series results are, like how many games the Kings win. And this is so I think they win 4-2 with this here. So and the series winner is supposed to be the Kings, according to what I say. And then with this one here, this is Knicks versus Cavs. Of course, I had the Knicks as the series winner. I should have put way more on this, but I'm not that kind of dude. So this one is worth $10 now, which is so I can cash out if I wanted to, which isn't bad. And these here, I can't really pull it out. So this here is like trying to predict what the series, how the series ends. So this one here is $1, odds are 1,000, and if Knicks win 4-1, I get $11. This one I predict 4-2. Um, I guess I was tripping with this one. I but only put $1 on it. So I said the Knicks was going to win 4-0. That didn't happen.
Yeah, hey, you know what? Why not? Right?
All right. I guess I don't know why I placed this bet here again. So this is placed. I think I already had a bet where I have New York as a series winner. So this is duplicated here, which is fine. So I have the Lakers. This is the ones that are a little interesting. This year I basically put a little more money in some of these. Lakers to win the Western Conference. I put $20 on that. Nuggets possibility. I put $10 on that. And the Bucks. This was a hedge here, but I know I'm way off. I was way off on it. I put 20, but that's not going to work. And also have the Kings as a possible winner um, for the Western Conference. The payout will be 230 on $10. Celtics possible winner of the Eastern Conference. Put 20 on it. Um, and then the Knicks. This one is interesting. This is a good one here. The Knicks will win the Eastern Conference. I put 30 on it, and actually, I can cash it out now. So after this series is over, I'm probably going to cash this one out. Just after this, so because obviously, if they move on to the next round, I think obviously the cash out amount here is going to increase. And actually, the thing that's interesting, it might help like make up for a lot of these some of the other losses I'm going to have here. And so, but this is where it kind of like doing the math gets a little fun. You kind of it gives you ideas, kind of helps confirm whatever thoughts you may have on who you think is going to win. And so, or it may basically dispute whatever idea you have. And so, but it's really interesting. And so, so these are the best that I made, and some of them are good. I think most of them aren't very good, but that's the nature of betting is gambling, right? So
Right.
yeah, and so that's pretty much that's pretty much what I have. Um, you know, anything else you want to add about the game or about the playoffs?
Well, I'm just I think that one of the things regarding the with the Knicks, um, I Tibbs, I think is doing a halfway decent job. I feel like Johnny Bryant is I'm seeing him being very very vocal on the sidelines. I
Yeah,
see him talking to Tibbs. I see how players are reacting to Johnny Bryant. Um, you know, and I I just want to keep seeing Tibbs be creative, right? We still have some challenges when it comes to setting up offensive plays. Right
Mhm.
now, we're so ISO heavy,
Yeah.
and I think we have a team that wants to play team basketball. But when you have Randall and you have Brunson, and RJ just so ISO heavy,
Hmm.
and unfortunately, RJ doesn't have the stats to support his ISO, and so I just think we just got to make some adjustments. The film is there, and I think that we've got a strong chance if everyone shows up, if everyone plays at their best game. There's no way Cleveland can beat us this next game
Yeah.
if everyone shows up and
I
does their
definitely
job.
agree with you. I agree with you there, 100% everything you said. Uh, one thing I would add with the in terms of isolation basketball is I think sometimes it depends, right? Our assist numbers are really low. It tends to be really low. But if you look at our offensive efficiency, I think we're one of the top offensive teams in the league. And the reason why that is sometimes is like, I mean, if you have the ISO players and if they can get buckets for you, if you got a Jalen Brunson, he's shooting like 49% from the field, and like, what is it, maybe 38% from three. I'm not even sure what he's shooting on the season from three, but he's a very efficient ball player. I mean, and he's a good ISO player. The teams are going to do that, right? So that means every time you need a bucket, or most of the time he takes a shot, he's making 49% of whatever shots he take. I mean, that's above league average. And so it's just I think that's the reason why some Tibbs does it sometimes. I do think when we struggle offensively, especially when an ISO isn't working, then he needs to be able to like make that adjustment pretty quickly and try to see maybe. And honestly, I think it's more about in that case, it'll be more about kind of like giving a little more minutes to the second team, right? Um, because because basically the starting lineup with Julius, there is just not their game, it's not their style, it's just not the way they play. So the assist numbers, I would bet if you look at the assist numbers for the starting lineup, in terms of you compare the assists per minute played, it's probably really low. And if you look at our basically our the second unit is probably pretty high, and it'll probably be interesting to see how the second unit's assist per minute stacks up against the league, right? But yeah, I mean it's so that just kind of like what I think is happening there, and I think he needs to be able to make the adjustments when it's needed, especially if the offense is struggling. When it's struggling, then you got to be able to make a change and figure out a way to move the ball a little more, because then because at that point then it allows you to get easier baskets if you move the ball more. But if they're making buckets and they're shooting, let's say, 46, 47% from the field, then I think he's the chances are the coach is going to continue doing what he's doing if the team is efficient, even though it's like the assist numbers isn't there. But
Right.
hopefully they can figure it out. They can basically make the necessary adjustments they need to make, especially for the round two. I do think Cleveland is a very good ball club. I think people are not giving them enough credit. Sometimes these things are about matchups. And honestly, I think Cleveland facing a different team, they probably get out there's a good chance they get out of the, first round. Like
Yeah.
if they're facing, let's say maybe, obviously definitely if they're facing like a Brooklyn, they get out. I think, I feel like they give Philly, they'll give Philly fits. I think they have a good shot against Philly if they had to play Philly in the first round. So a lot of times they just match up and they just drew the worst possible matchup for them. The Knicks were the worst possible matchup for Cleveland Cavaliers, just because like our styles are very similar, and given the styles that we both play are similar, we're just better at executing within the style that we both play, and so I think they're a lot better team than people give them credit for. This is just a crappy matchup for them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's sometimes you're right. It's just the matchup,
Yeah,
and I felt we had a great shot against Cleveland. And and one of the storylines is, you know, would we still be the same team had we depleted it just for Donovan Mitchell?
You
I
know,
mean, because we not. Yeah, think about that one. Yeah, think about it.
well, the problem is like, even when I did the videos, is like the way I was using, like, so the way I approached, especially the trade was, it matters what you're giving up, right? You don't want to give up too much. You're right. If we would have basically traded for Donovan Mitchell, we probably, for it to work, they would have had to give up a lot of depth and a lot of draft picks, and it probably, it would have been a problem for the Knicks, right? So we would have been like top heavy and not really have enough coming off the bench. But that's why they didn't make the trade, because they were asking for too much. If let's say it was like basically you traded like RJ Barrett, RJ Barrett and like some picks, that RJ Barrett and like three first round picks, right? You do
Hmm.
that, it works. But what basically the other team wants to do too is like they want to drain your team, right? And that, at least that's what Utah, like, um that manager over there, GM over at Utah, that's what he likes to do to teams.
Danny Ainge.
Yeah, he wants to
Danny
drain
Ainge.
you, so you're a crappy team. So obviously the picks he's getting back in return is actually more valuable in the future. And so Cleveland sort of fell for it in some ways, because now they got bounced in the first round. And if the owner gets frustrated and decides to make changes, right, because he thinks it's not working and they're not going to get anywhere, it's not going to work. Cleveland's just going to get worse, right? And then they might be back in where they were like a year ago. But I think that's where, basically you kind of have to look at what is it like, what should you actually give up for the trade? And I think if we gave up RJ Barrett, let's say three first round picks, I thought it would have been a great trade. I think the Knicks would have been a much better team if that happened. But then if you're talking about give up RJ, three first round pick, and then you're giving up like OB and IQ, like, see, that's the stuff that they wanted. That just like that was just silly. It's just silly season at that point. It just doesn't make any sense. And I think because of that, the Knicks actually made the smart move by not making a trade, because it does matter what you give up, and a lot of people sometimes thinks it doesn't matter, but it does. So
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Now, if it was RJ Grimes and I don't know, maybe one more player, I just don't know who it would be. Uh, but and then three first round picks, yeah, because I mean Cleveland, I mean they gave up Larkin, and Larkin, what was he, most improved player of the year?
yeah,
So
marketing, yeah.
RJ is not being most. I mean, I don't. Who we could have given up that would have equaled, Larkin.
Yeah, the thing that's really interesting too is like about players. Although RJ struggles, right? So the thing that's really interesting, the way the Knicks are built. They really built for the playoffs, right? So because of the depth and the different places where you can get scoring from, RJ's efficiency is really crappy and really low, but he gets to the basket, right? He does a really good job getting to the basket. And I'm really surprised. I thought he was going to struggle this series. I thought, like, okay, if we get past this series and maybe we face a smaller lineup like a Miami, I thought, like, at that point you might see RJ pop off. But I didn't think he was going to be popping off this early. And so, but the Knicks just have certain players that are just built for the playoffs, like RJ Barrett, because he can get to the basket. You need people that can get to the basket, especially in half court sets. So RJ is that person. You got Jalen Brunson, he can score in half court. And then on the defensive side, is like in being able to control the paint and rebound. Like, that's what I've been saying for a couple of years, or a few years. Mitchell Robinson, he's like that kind of player. You don't see the true value of Mitchell Robinson until you get into the playoffs. And so, but in terms of how RJ, going back to how RJ compares to marketing, I mean, like marketing, I think he has a long way to go in terms of like, I've seen the way he plays. He's really a jump shooter. He doesn't, I haven't seen him play a lot, but what I have seen is just not, his game is not built for the playoffs. It's not built for like a half court set. And so I just don't even see him. And from that standpoint, RJ is actually more valuable in my opinion than marketing is because like at least RJ will give you something in the playoffs, right? Because he's going to get to the basket, and if he finishes even like below 50% clip at the rim in the playoffs, that's good. That's not bad. So
he, but he has to make his free throws.
true, that is 100. You're 100% right about that.
He can get to
He's
the
going to
rim
kill
and
us
get
with that.
fouled, but he,
Yeah,
shooting 60%.
I agree.
What was it? With 13 shots, was he? What did he take? 13 free throws.
Yeah, 13 free throws, only made eight. He shot 61% from the free throw line. You know, and then the other person is like honestly, I've never felt Julius was built for the playoffs. Only because if you look at the way Julius plays, even when he gets to the basket, he gets to the basket. I don't know. He needs to work. Feel like he needs to work more on his layup packages when he gets to the rim. I feel like he doesn't get enough lift, or just the way he gets up in the air is just like, and he's more athletic than that. So sometimes I wonder why, he gets blocked a lot when he's in the paint, especially when he's going like, when he's in the paint, he struggles finishing over people. And I think a lot of it is just basically the way his moves down there in the paint. Once he gets to the basket there, I don't know why he goes up the way he does. I think probably a coach would probably better to speak to that. But that's why Julius struggles. I think in the playoffs, it's like he can't, even when he gets inside the paint, he can't get up and get a shot off. Like he throws something up because he's afraid he's going to get blocked, so he might throw up something that's going to be a little wild. But most of the time, he won't even attempt it because he's afraid it's going to get blocked. And so, if you notice his shots in the paint, let's see if we can find let's see if we can find shots in the paint for by players. Um, uh, let's see. Let's look for Julius Randle. You know, Silver. And so, yeah, I mean, look at this Julius Randle over here. And if you look, most of his shots are just outside the paint. In the playoffs, half court, especially with everyone on you the way they are, you got to get in here a little more. And if you see here, he had three shots in the paint. He did make two, which was good. But I think he needs to find a way to live in here a little. And I think a lot of it, he's just not comfortable shooting over, uh, the bigs sometimes. And I think it's something to do with just the way he goes up, maybe, or it's just odd. I kind of notice it. Do you ever notice it? Like sometimes because he just, for some reason, I just don't see him like really operating in the paint the way he should, or like enough. What do you think about that? Have you noticed it?
Yeah, yeah. I do think that you know, he's just I don't know, Julius. He just plays at this one speed, right? And then he's either jump shooting or I feel like he tries to get bailed out a lot with that.
Yeah.
He pulls up and then he waits for the ref to call. With truth, it should probably be a jump ball for the most part,
Hmm.
and and the refs bail him out every time.
Yeah.
You know, so it's hard to say. Like I want to see him healthy.
Hmm.
We've had a small sample size of Julius. He obviously he showed that he can't be the number one option, and
Hmm.
now we have a team where he doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And then and that may be what he needs. He needs to be able to play that Robin role. You let Brunson be Batman, you play Robin.
Hmm.
And let's see what we have. Where he's not having to force the games, and so it's hard. I don't how tough I am on Julius. I don't want to judge him right now while he's
Yeah.
still hurt.
No, I definitely
I want
understand.
that.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. I was gonna say I want that ankle to heal, and then his leg, and let's I'm going to hold my judgment until until he's playing a little bit more healthier. Now, if he comes and shows out this next game, all right,
Yeah.
he's back, and now I'm going to hold his feet. I'm going to hold him accountable.
Yeah.
But
Look, I agree with you, with that. I really do hope he gets healthy, and I hope he plays better. You know, like I think that's the only way the Knicks go far in this playoffs if he basically turns it around and starts to play better.
Yeah,
It's just talking about whether his game is built for the playoffs. I think it's just more about, paint touches. If you're not a great jump shooter, like how much are you getting in the paint? If you look at RJ ain't making nothing from out here. But you see all this and what he keeps doing. He just keeps getting in the paint because he knows he's not making anything out here, and so he just goes to the basket and he keeps and he knows how he's going to get the buckets in the basket at when he's at the rim or in the paint. But Julius is just most of his shots were outside the paint, you know, and that's not, especially if you're not a great jump shooter, if you're not money or water from out there, then you're going to struggle. And I think that's what, in my opinion, I think that's what we're seeing with him now. But I guess going back to RJ and marketing, but that's why I feel like RJ is more of a valuable player because you see more what he has to offer in the playoffs because his ability to get to the basket that because it counts more. That's you're going to be able to like you're going to be able to contribute more. You're going to be more productive. But marketing, he shoots jump shots. He's a jump shooter. Same thing, sort of like similar to Randall, shoots a lot of jump shots. And if you're not a great shooter, like Brunson can do that because Brunson is like money from anywhere, you know. It's just like so Brunson can do that, but if you're not Brunson or if you're not Steph Curry or like if you're not a great shooter, you can't do that. You can't. You got to get to the basket, and so I feel like it's just that simple for them.
yeah,
Um, but all right, so that's pretty much it. You guys please feel free to comment below, like and subscribe to the channel. Hopefully we'll put up another video maybe in about another week, and hopefully the Knicks close the Cleveland Cavs out tomorrow. If they do, that'd be great. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, make sure you like and subscribe. Talk to you guys again soon.